Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. Thanks sponsors, Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Huggins & Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, ComC.com, and Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication. I am a statistician. I do have a PhD in probability and statistics for, going on almost 50 years. So I've carried that credential, and I probably have forgotten more than I learned at this point because I'm no longer a professor. I no longer do the expert witnessing, which kept me sharp on statistical presentations. No longer even doing the price guides, which also was really a fun thing to do, and my training really helped. But I want to talk today about odds. I was listening to, or I guess reading, some commentary by some basketball analysts and the buzz about LeBron wanting to play with Bronny. And there's nothing wrong with that. He wants to do that. In his prime, he could really dictate terms. Even now, he's such a draw, and he's amazing what he's doing. LeBron. Bronny, what he's doing is only amazing if you consider that he almost died a year ago. So I'm very pleased that he's back on the court. I think he's got minutes restrictions, which keeps his statistics from being that great. But I don't think he's the first or second best player on his team. And usually when you're talking about a first or second draft pick, you're talking about somebody, even at 19 or 20, they've got to show not just the generational talent from your dad, although Kobe, same thing. I think Kobe was underestimated because his dad was a good player, but not a great player. And he grew up overseas for some part of it with his dad and playing over there. So there's some extenuating circumstances, but the topic today is odds. And sometimes when people talk about the odds, if they're doing gambling or betting, whether it's daily fantasy or betting on big games, a lot of times the odds are worked out to make it a 50-50 bet. And in a 50-50 bet, if the odds are done just right, so half the people bet on one side and half the people bet on the other side, then the bookie makes out because there's a vig, there's a cut that the bookie gets. So the bookie can make, say, 5%, but the bookie is pretty guaranteed to make that as long as the odds are done properly and it's evened out where you've got half the bettors on one side and half the bettors on the other side. So half are going to win and half are going to lose, and you're definitely going to get paid. And I guess if it's a tie, then it's like a do-over. However, it's conditioned the American public, maybe the world public, to think of terms of odds being kind of 50-50 and making it into the NBA. And frankly, not just in the NBA, but having a basketball card worth chasing, even an autograph card of him worth chasing. And I'm talking about a Bronny card that's autographed without his dad on it. Anything with LeBron, LBJ, is going to be great because he's had fairly restricted autographs up to this point because of his relationship with Upper Deck, which now has moved over. So don't be thinking that odds means 50-50. Yes, there are two possibilities. If you think Bronny will either make the NBA or he won't. And so those are two things that could happen, but they're not equally probable. And don't think that they are. In fact, the card market adjusts for that in the sense that the prices implicitly will gravitate towards something that approximates odds, in that if a card is a $10 card, why isn't it a $100 card? And why isn't it a $1,000 card? Why isn't it a $10,000 card? And so implicitly, people are looking at the probability of somebody making it. Not a 50-50. It might be 1 in 100, but in that 1 in 100 eventuality, if Bronny was even close to what LeBron, his dad, did, he could be a valuable card. On the other hand, you're getting in on the front end with somebody that's going to be very hyped. And so his baseline is going to be higher. You've got to figure out, if I buy his autograph card at $100, let's say, it could go up to 1,000 and it could go down to 20. It maybe can't go down too much. In fact, that's what you're looking at. So the odds are not 50-50 that it's going to go up or down. Those are the two eventualities. And if it goes up, it could go a lot more up than it could go down. It really can't go up infinitely, but it can only go down to zero or to a base level of something. And so, if he's a complete washout, he'd still be a novelty. And if he hits it big, on the other hand, how does he hit it big? He's not his dad's size. He doesn't have his dad's pedigree. He's never been as good as his dad at any age that he's been. LeBron was the dominant player, not just on his team, but he was always the dominant player in the nation for his age. Bronny, not so much. I am not bullish I think it's a bad idea to draft him sooner to give LeBron what he wants, whether LeBron gets that with the Lakers or encourages a trade somewhere else that somebody wants to do that. But on the other hand, if the Mavericks said, LeBron, if you want to come see us, and we can trade you on favorable terms without giving up our core pieces. Yes, we'll sign Bronny as a free agent and give him a big contract and guarantee to keep him on the roster if you join our team for, let's say, 2 years. So I hope the Mavs do that. But again, it's a combo bet. It's if they get Bronny, they've also got LeBron. And the net effect of that could be a championship. But on the other hand, if it's just Bronny, what team is going to draft Bronny? Should he go into the G League, the D League, overseas? He needs more time against really good players. He was good, and he's, as they said, not overwhelmed with the big stage. But I just don't see... If Michael Jordan had been 6'3", would he have accomplished what he accomplished? No, you need a certain combination of size and strength and quickness and savvy. He may have the savvy, but he's not his dad's size. I just think it's a bad deal. So what's the sports card impact or insight? That basically, if you're loading up on Bronny, don't think that's a 50-50 bet. There is a possibility, but I don't know that he's going to have a growth spurt. And there's a limit. Is he going to be as good a shooter as Steph Curry or even Seth Curry, who's fallen out of favor now? So pedigree matters, but ultimately he has to stand on his own 2 feet. And like I said, I still worry about his health. I don't know that he's 100%. I had a heart attack 27 years ago. And if I try to get life insurance, they sure aren't going to give me the best rate because they say you're a heart attack survivor. Bronny, how much does he get insured? And what are the chances of him being a robust 42-minute-a-game player? Like I said, I don't think it's a 50-50 bet. And as we say in the sports card hobby, the odds or the pricing is baked in, assuming that he's going to make it to some degree. And that's a way of the sports card market evening out the odds. If they put the price at $100, then everybody buys. They put it at $1,000, then maybe everybody buys. They put it at $10,000, then maybe half the people buy and half the people don't, which means there's a point of equilibrium there. So then now maybe in the perception, because we don't know, in the perception, there's a perception that there's a 50-50 bet. It might go up, it might go down. If everybody thinks it's going to go down, then everybody's going to be selling at that and the price will go down. We saw that every month in our monthly price guides, is that when something got up too high, it's not that the player wasn't great. It's just that people perceived that there were other better deals out there. And it's the same thing with Bronny. I think there's going to be some money rushing to him with an abundance of optimism. It's a very optimistic hobby in many cases. People want him to be successful. But if he's not, the price is going to go down. And people are making bets all the time. Anybody that tells you when a new rookie comes out, don't buy right away because it'll start up high and then go down. Okay, that's generally good advice. But if there's a generational talent coming out that you think is can't miss, and maybe other people think that too, but if you've got to be really willing to bet on that person, because if you go back in time and look at the early pricing for Luka was way, way lower than what it was 6 months or a year later. Certainly a year later. And so if you would have waited, I didn't jump on the Luka train because I thought he's a local guy. He'll always be out there. The price just went into the stratosphere. I don't see that for Bronny. So whatever they're charging right now, I think it's going to wind up being more like a novelty. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and I'd love to be wrong. But the odds to me are not 50-50 that he's going to be great. I think the odds are greatly in favor of him really not getting much playing time, not even being a starter in the NBA, much less an all-star. Jeremy Lin's sanity. Jeremy Lin had a couple of years where he was an offensive force, but you don't see huge prices for him. And he actually was the best player in the games that he played in. He dominated in some games. I don't see Bronny doing that. If he does, again, that'd be great. If he does it because his dad is assisting him, that's fine too. Maybe they'll have some special chemistry, but I just would encourage you to have caution and to evaluate the odds, not as being there's two choices, I'm going to flip a coin. No, the odds are inexactly set, just like the bookies. Their opening odds are not necessarily the closing odds. If I'm looking at all the data there, in fact, if you were to make a proposition bet, you go to Las Vegas, there might be something or somebody that would bet you and give you really strong odds that it's not an even bet of whether it will ever make an all-star team. It's unlikely. When you look at that, then you might factor that into how much he'd be willing to pay for his card. Like I said, other than the novelty or a combo card with his dad or something like that. Again, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Again, this is prophecy bad news. I don't think it's going to happen, but don't shoot the messenger. I'm pulling for him. I think LeBron is just one of the most amazing basketball players I've ever seen. I don't know that he's the GOAT, but he certainly was the GOAT of at least the greatest of some of the years that I watched him. If it's the AT, the all-time, I'm not sure about that. because Michael Jordan just has this incredible championship pedigree of elevating those around him. And LeBron did lose in a bunch of finals. But don't confuse LeBron with Bronny, and let's evaluate. You might think, let's just evaluate Bronny on his own merits and then bump it up a little bit for his name. Instead of propping it way up for his name and then thinking, well, I'm going to take a little off because he hasn't proven himself yet. Well, he may never prove himself, or at least to the level of, there's, I think, zero chance, or pretty close to zero chance, it'll be as good as his dad. Like I said, I think it's less than 50-50, way less than 50-50 that he'll even be a starter in the NBA. Again, that's a little negativity here, but just want to be cautious in the sense that I think enjoying the hobby, $1 going to that means $1 not going somewhere else. And there is a downside. The bragging rights that you'll have of being one of the first ones to own these Bronny autographs and the better cards may turn out not to be a good deal. So thanks, everybody. Be back again in a couple of days, another episode, and continue to enjoy the hobby. It's the greatest hobby of all time.